Welcome to this talk on practical approach to stress management or managing stress. I'm Timothy Chui, and I will show you how to look at stress in a very practical way and how to manage it. Now, personally, I have been involved with counseling on emotional health for the particular community, and also I teach in the topics. I teach in topics like how to manage emotions, how to overcome and defeat fear, worry, anxiety, how to overcome a troubled mind. Now, stress isn't always bad. A little bit of stress can sometimes help us to move and to progress, and to move forward. But however, when stress is overwhelming, and we are not able to manage it, it will actually does have detrimental consequences to our health. For example, you have long hours of stress, and you don't know when to stop. Things like that, you are not managing well, then of course it will affect our health in a very particular way. Yeah. So we cannot always control our work environment and stress because the stress come in all different forms. But doesn't mean that we are powerless. The important thing is how to we actually look at stress and how we will be able to manage it in a way that it will not affect our health. So with that, let's just dive in and take a look. Okay, welcome back. So here we are. Now in this preview, what I'm going to show you is a few things that which I thought you would like to know upfront before we actually move in into a little bit of detail. And just do understand this just a preview. In the course proper, of course, we will dive a bit more deeper, and we may do some exercise, to bring out the learning and to actually be able to visualize how it actually impact us. Basically, there are a few areas that or topics that we want to focus on. So, which each of them will just give you a very short preview. Yeah, we are going to look at the science of stress. Yeah, how do we actually build it? What are some of the how do we look at it in the mind that we can understand so that we can manage it? And when under stress, how does our body respond? Yeah, and where does this response come from? If we are sort of threatened, we are being stressed with some triggers or what they call the stimulus, how do we actually respond? And how does this response bring on stress and emotional stress, which which will actually affect and impact our health and our body, so on and so forth. And as we have looked at the signs of stress, of course, then we're going to look at the consequences. How does then that will actually impact the way our body function? What are some of the cause or root causes and triggers? How are you triggered? Just understand that each of us are very different. The way that we are stressed are very different. The way that we respond to stress is very different. And finally, I'm going to just throw out some tips to how to overcome stress. It's a very practical thing and not. So let's just have a short definition of stress. Now, stress can be defined as any type of change that causes physical, emotional, or psychological strain. The stress is your body response. So, so there's a reason why we talk about the stress response. So, under stress, how do we respond? What are the things that actually stress us or trigger us? Therefore, stress is your body response to anything that require attention or action, very positive or negative. Everyone experiences stress to a certain degree, and of course, the way we respond will be very different by each and every one of us. To understand stress, look look at the past 3 years, which we can easily identify with. There's a lot of uncertainty about the future because we are so locked down with the pandemic. There's doesn't seem to be going away any time soon. All of us are stressed somewhat, and not to mention about wars that is happening in the Middle East, in the Ukraine war. People are being displaced from home. And a lot of this country, that even providing the basic need for the family is stressful. Yeah, and then we talk about violence in the community. Even in country where you do not have wars, yet we are fighting one another. So the COVID-19 has bring a lot of stress during the last 3 years, with its lockdown, with its mandates of vaccines, mandate of masks, and then we hear all sort of different story. How if you're not vaccinated, you are quite likely to contact COVID-19. And then also we heard of news that say that if you're vaccinated, then again there is adverse effect. So therefore, it's a very difficult for some people to vaccine or not to vaccine. Not to mention some of us, whether we do it or we do not do it, we have our own reason. Some of us have what they call underlying health reason why we should not be doing it, and some people with underlying reason, illnesses, and they feel that they should be doing it. So again, there's a whole lot of things. Making decision is not so simple. Now, post COVID again, there are a lot of people who get complication because of long term effect. Even after they have recovered, the what they call the brain fog thing, they keep on bothering them. So some of our friends still have what they call a post COVID complication. Some are very direct. Some of the impact or effect you just can sort of speculate. It may or may not be true, but still things you get worried. So we get worried of all sort of things. Yeah, and because of the lockdown, some people cannot work. Of course, there are people who actually got more work. So you get more work, you get stressed. Some of them are saying, "Oh, we work overtime because of the lockdown." And there are people who just got nothing to do, and whether you have a lot of things to do, you have nothing to do, you are stressed all the same. Yeah. So the world was sadder and more stressed out in 2021 than ever before. So 2022 uh, is the same. According to some of these, what they call poll, where they do some survey. They found that 4 in 10 adults worldwide said that they experienced a lot of worry or stress, which is quite understandable in the sense. Yeah. So indeed, stress symptom can affect our body. So not only affect our mind, our emotion, but actually affect our body. As we go along, I will try to highlight some of these things, and being able to know how it impact our body and give us the sort of motivation to try to master or try to manage stress uh, in a better way. So being able to recognize common stress can help us to manage them. The stress can left unchecked. If stress that are left unchecked, can contribute to many health problems. So one of the one of the drawback is this: a lot of time we do not understand stress that can actually harm us. So we leave stress unchecked. In other words, okay, no, I can take it, I can take it. No, I have very high threshold. Well, whether you can take it or not, all the same, your body will respond, and the sort of adverse effect will be there. Okay, so if left unchecked, it can raise many health issues, like high blood pressures, heart diseases, obesity, diabetes, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the consequences. So let's look at the signs of stress. Yeah. Now, basically, when we look at stress, we have what you call the positive stress and the negative stress. Yeah. So, like for example, if you won the lottery, with a few $1 million prize, uh, it's something that is happy, but you get stressed all the same, huh? Because then now you got to start to think, where you going to put your money? Does people know about me? Will they rob me? Do I need to pay income tax? Will the income tax department come after me? So on and so forth. So and then you have a lot of decision to make all the same. So it can be happy event, but nevertheless can be stressful at time. So do not think that the rich people do not have stress. Then they do have. Yeah. So like for example, if you expecting a baby, in the next 2 months, of course, there's a very heightened level of stress, happiness. But then again, when the baby come, what do I do? Do I how do I manage my workflow and so on and so forth? How do I manage my finance? So again, it's positive, but then nevertheless, you will be stressed. Then of course, then we look at those what they call distress, really negative, where some of them are very acute in the sense that it's quite short, no, and some of them are very chronic in the sense that it perpetually is there all the time. You do not realize it, but it's there. And if it's so, then how does it actually impact our health? For example, so let's just take a look. These are some of the signs of stress. So your body sends an alarm, a signal. Sometimes you don't see that as stress, but you see it's sent. Now this alarm or this sensing from your mind can be real or it can be perceived. Because sometimes you think, you heard a voice, you heard the noise, then you think there's a bugger sort of in the house, which may not be true. Yeah, you heard your boss mention something, your name, and you think that the company want to fire you, but that's not true. Yeah. So sometimes we perceive, but then no, nevertheless, our body go into a reactive mode, and get stressed. So sometimes the thing that you really perceive are real. Yeah. So those are the reality of life. So sometimes it's real, and all the same, your body go into a heightened state and you go into stress. So your body will release stress hormone, which if left unchecked will actually have an impact on our body system. That's the basic sign. So if you know that stress eventually will take its toll on your body, now you can understand, like for example, you have migraine, have body pain, your body ache, and so on and so forth. Then it could be actually because of the stress that you are enduring, which you think is nothing. So understanding how stress operates will help us to mitigate or actually help us to navigate our life so that the stress will be managed and handled properly. Yeah. So in the stress response system, you will see that your mind perceives something, okay, and then the organ, which is this pituitary gland, which is in the brain, pick up the signal. Then he actually releases a command. Your body is a command center, by the way. So then your body will begin to release hormones, a signal to the adrenal gland to release cortisol, adrenaline, so on and so forth. So there are chemicals that are being released. For short term, actually, it's good. It's because stress, like I told you, for short term will be good, so that we can actually respond to the urgency of the matter. Otherwise, no, we will be like, yeah, we will see take things as if nothing happened. If there's an exam coming, you don't study. If there's an urgent work, you don't do it. So when there's a response, when there's a stress or something that triggers and say, look, this is urgent. So our body just respond, and the body just go into a stress response sort of circuitry, and it releases chemicals that give us the strength, the energy to do what we need to do. But if this stress is perpetual, like I told you, we have a cue, which is yeah, it's good for our system to help us to survive. In fact, fears fear is a form of stress, has kept human alive or protected for forever since the ages of past. Yeah, because we want to survive. Yeah, so we are afraid of the animals. So we build up protection, we build up weapons so that we can fight against them. But if this stress or this stimulus is there all the time and your body responds to it all the time, of course, it's going to cause a lot of damage to your body. And the whole list of things that I've shown you in this sort of picture, whether it's the liver, the blood pressure, the heart, your eyes, digestion system, so on and so forth. So it has a wide impact on the body system. So, but basically, this is a sign. Yeah, if your body is under stress, it releases chemicals to fight the enemy. So this is our first level of defense. And of course, how does the stress response come about? Let's say, for example, you're frightened by a monster or an animal. So how do you respond? You can stay and fight, or you can run away. That's what some of us do. Yeah. So in a stress response, is fight, or this is what you call the fight or flight response. But whichever way, you will actually cause our body uh, to sort of release chemicals. Because each of them have different sort of outcome too. So fight is basically, you face the enemy, and you want to fight back. You want to defend yourself. You can scream, you can actually cry and shout and so on and so forth, and say, look, it's not my fault. Or you can flight. In other words, you just get away. No I see. Yeah. So sometimes we run away. Uh, Hiding in different places. Don't go for holidays. Yeah, try to get away. If it's the stress is from the home. You try to make a lot of business trips so that you won't be around the house. If it's in the company, then again, you try to make a lot of excuses. Why you should be in the office and not in, especially today when you are allowed to do work at home. Yeah, so you try not to face your colleague. You try not to face your boss. Yeah, so you just try to keep it far away from them. Or you can freeze. Yeah, in other words, you feel a bit stuck. Yeah, don't know how to respond. And get very confused. Yeah, and of course, it's not only fight, flight, and freeze. But lately there's another, they call it fawn. Yeah, fawn. 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 Uh, this this is in the case where there are what we call childhood trauma. For example, if you're a child and you are uh, sort of traumatically abused, you cannot fight because your abuser is bigger than you. You cannot fight because you cannot hide from them. Yeah. And of course, you can freeze, just a bit confused, or you can front. The front is like, okay, now you try to be a people person. In other words, you try to go along with them and say, oh yeah, yeah, okay, I agree with you. I agree that you give me a punch is good, you scold me is good. You beat me up is for my good. So you try to go along with them, and you are what they call, you have co-dependent relationship, because they have to depend on your abuser for survival anyway. So you have no boundary, you have no place to run. So there are the different responses that we can look at. Let's say, for example, in the past, you are sort of have been bitten by a snake, and it can be quite serious and all that. So your mind remember, we have memory, and this memory, in the memory we have, we not only remember the event, but also we have the what you call the emotional memory there. So in other words, attached to this event is how you feel. Okay, let's say you have been bitten by a snake, and you feel, yeah, you get very frightened with snake. The next time you see a snake, you will run. It doesn't matter whether the snake you see is real or not. You perceive, and because your body, your mind works so fast. What we call the emotional brain, it works so fast. It sort of short circuit your thinking brain. Your thinking brain will be, okay, is this snake harmful? Something are not harmful. Is this snake real? But you see, your emotional brain will shortcut, hijack your sort of thinking brain, because you have been frightened before, and you have no time to sort of rationalize whether it's a good idea to find out. So you just run. So this is what we call the automatic thought response. Yeah. So you have a belief that all snakes are poisonous, all snakes are sort of harmful. The moment you see a snake, it doesn't care. You just respond the way. So you have what you call the automatic response built into your system, because of your memory of an event that you have had before, and the emotion tied with it. So the moment something trigger you like that, you straight away respond. You respond, your emotion just emote, and it will affect the way you behave, whether you run away, whether you stay. So your automatic thoughts, in other words, your mind, the way you think or the way you perceive things, will influence the way you emote. The way you emote will actually affect the way you behave. So these are links, and it happens so fast, you have no time to think. So negative automatic thoughts can generate emotions such as anxiety, sadness, frustrations, guilt, anger, or unworthiness. Great Wolf Waffle says, for example, it says, this is just an example. If automatic thoughts is when you get a new assignment, is I always fail. In other words, if you are the one who actually, always sort of don't get things done properly. So the next time your boss gives you some assignment, your first thinking is, oh, another one that I will not make it. You are likely to feel depressed. Yeah, and you feel a bit worried, again, what happened when my boss asked my progress and all that. So your automatic response, yeah, will cause you to have this sort of emotion, without thinking, because this is what we call the automatic thought. Because straight away, oh, another assignment, wow, another job, oh, why me again? Yeah. So you just come. So stress, there's a sign of stress, and the stress response, how we respond. And all this one will cause us to have emotional and mental stress, which will affect our emotional and mental health all the same. Just a very short example. Just a very short example. Let's say, for example, in a meeting, and because everybody is, pointing the finger at you, uh, don't agree with you, So, and this is not the first time, So you feel that, oh, everybody is against me, everybody is at war with me. Now, when that happened, then what happened to you is you feel lonely, you feel angry, Yeah, you feel betrayed because where is my friend? Who is my friend that's supposed to support me, so on and so forth. And again, when in this sort of situation, what do you do? How do you respond? So you can respond by yeah, you can actually respond by no fight, flight. Okay, flight means actually you run away, you just walk out of the meeting. So there are people who just walk out of the meeting. Or you can stand up and fight. Yeah, or you feel very indifferent. In other words, you're very confused or not knowing what to think. And yeah, a bit lost. So all this stress will actually impact and affect our emotion health. Yeah, and of course it has consequences, like I told you, because of the emotion that surface or that is being generated because of all this event. So you can feel sad, you can feel depressed, then you feel grief is actually lost. So you lost the respect, of your colleague. You respect the trust of your colleague because you yeah you just sort of make a mess of things. So you feel quite lost. Yeah, and all these are very negative emotion. And you feel stressed. Now people can shout at you. You don't know how to respond. So how do you make good sense of all this emotion that you have? Then, like I told you, the stress response, all these response will eventually cause damage to your body system now because of the way your cortisol, adrenaline are being released. And if it's not checked, in other words, if you are constantly under stress, you are constantly under stress, your body will continue to release. Like for example, if you have a boss that always pick on you, yeah, every time you go to work, you feel stressed. You see his face, you feel stressed. If you hear your boss voice walking in the office, you feel stressed. So you are perpetually stressed the whole day. Yeah. So stress can affect uh, our physiology. In other words, our body. Yeah. Okay. It has psychological sort of consequences. In other words, it cause emotional problem, anxiety, depression, frustration. Family problem. Because you go back, you can't function. So you go home, you want to shout at your children, you shout at your wife. Um, yeah. So one thing leads to another, and you get burned out. And also it affect your behavior. Yeah. So you begin uh behavior is another coping mechanism. Yeah. So you drink a lot, you smoke a lot. No? You see people who are under stress, that's the same thing. Yeah. Every few minutes they will take like a cigarette. Yeah. And also because of the concerns of big trouble, having a trouble mind. They're very also accident prone because they are not sort of alert. They're not focused on when they're driving. Or some cope by eating a lot. Yeah. Or some cope by avoidance. In other words, don't want to see people. So this have impact on your physiological sort of system, your body system, whether it's high blood, muscle tension, headache, ulcer, immune system, heart disease, so on and so forth. So these are some of the consequences as a result of your emotional problems that actually eventually will have impact on your health. And also the cost of job. So the cost of job, these are consequences too. So when this happen, it's not only this adverse impact does not only happen to the individual, but also it will impact the company, the corporate. Because if your employee is not giving the best, well, the company as a whole will not be able to function as its best. Yeah. So studies show that high stress level are costing businesses more than 300 billion. Of course, these are some report. You can take just there's a link down there where I took the report. It's that high blood pressure, fatigue, scattered thinking, anger, sleeplessness are some of the side effects. Yeah. So not only your people will not be able to perform, but on top of that, you got to give them medical leave. You got to give them medical sort of costs, because they're going to see doctors and so on and so forth. So this is the cost of job stress, it sort of stress. It costs the employee. It costs the employer too. Yeah. So then we have consequences, and what are some of the root causes, and what are some of the triggers? How do you make sense of this? Let's say, for example, yeah, if if uh if have been have what they call a childhood abuse, so in the past when you grew up, you have abusive parents, who shout at you, call you stupid, good for nothing, you cannot succeed, so on and so forth. So you have very bad childhood. Of course, as when you grow up, you continue to think, that I must be stupid. I'm definitely going to fail. So as you go through life, you will not you will struggle to succeed in the sense. But for some will actually uh really push and push and push on that. Let's try to show to the parents that I can do it now. So they push, when you push and try to perfect, you stress all the same. Yeah. Uh, in the same way as the guy who said, "Look, I'm really stupid. I cannot do. I'm you, both are stressed. So if your thinking is that, no, I'm stupid. No, I cannot succeed. No, then of course through life you feel sad. Everything you do, you feel very down. Or I will not be like my colleague. I will not be like my friend. I'm not like them. Yeah, I can't actually do well. Yeah, so it will actually also affect the way you behave. Yeah, so you choose not to study and hang out with friends instead, because after all, you will not be able to make you are not in the category, so to speak. You don't have the mind of like your friend. So the way you think will actually impact the way you feel, which will actually impact the way you behave. And some of these have root causes. Yeah. So each and all of us have different root causes, but we have no time right now to look at root causes. But we will try to look at it a bit deeper, when we do the cause proper. And of course, I will end up with some tips to overcome stress. Now that you understand the signs of stress and how things trigger us, yeah, how it comes, yeah, how do we respond? We can respond by, yeah, fight, flight, or freeze. In other words, just cannot be bothered. So we're going to look at some of the tips how to overcome stress. Of course, upfront it's quite straightforward. Look after your well-being. Yeah, sleep, eat, exercise, very important. You eat well, you sleep well, have good exercise, so you have a right frame of mind to focus and to handle things. Because sometimes, when we are not having proper stress and not having proper sleep, sometimes people talk to us, we become very irritated. Yeah. uh you feel tired, you get irritated because people ask all the stupid questions, so you get irritated, so you get stressed. Yeah. So these are some of the things. Look after your well-being. Build your support network. In other words, you need to have people around, friends whom you can confide with, whom you can actually share your problem. One of the problems that people have on stress is they cannot talk to people. Like I told you before, the stress will actually generate a lot of negative emotion. And this emotion, if not released, in other words, if it's not sort of exposed or shared out, talk out, it will be suppressed. So you suppress your emotion. You cannot tell people. People don't understand you. Now, that is actually another sort of adverse sort of impact on your body system. So if you can have a support network where you have friends, you have colleagues that you can talk to, well, it will be very helpful. And all people is just voice out. It's not that they really want to a real solution, but not even sometimes voicing out, you get the release. Yeah, identify your trigger. Like I said before, all of us are different. The way we respond to situations are different. Sometimes people hear a bit of rain and they think the whole sky is coming down. The sky is falling down because there's a few drop of rain. But some people just are different. They may be very heavy rain to them. It's just normal part of life. So all of us respond to events and trigger differently. So, but for you, what are some of the things that will trigger you? What are some of the things that can stress you? For example, get organized. Organize your time, your work. Sometimes we get stressed because we are not properly organized. So when people ask for information, you cannot get it. Then people get angry. You get frustrated. Then people shout, and then you get more stress. You don't know where to look for things because you're not organized. Yeah, so if you're organized well, then you're on top of your work, you're on top of your situations, things like that will make a big difference in managing stress. And finally, learn how to manage your emotion. Yeah, because the stress will eventually generate a whole lot of negative emotion. So if these emotions are not properly managed, then again it will have consequences that to our health and impact the way we work, which actually impact the performance of the individual, the employee, affect the performance of the company. Yeah, then there's the cause of uh, stress in the workplace, both for the employer and for the employee. So with that, actually, I may come up with topics on how to manage emotion for health and productivity, not just for the workplace. If not managed properly, then again there are consequences. Then also I'm looking at how to come up with a topic on a healthy mind for health and productivity. The way we think will lead to the way we emote. So what are some of the things that we need to know? How the mind works, for example. How can we rewire our thoughts? In other words, rethink through what our thinking is. How do we undo the way that we think? Because the way you think impact the way you respond to situation. So right now you got to undo that. You got to undo that. Yeah. And of course, if I put together two of those, then we can actually come up with a topic on an emotionally healthy workplace, right? Where there will be a sort of win-win for the employees and for the employer. So with that, I will sort of stop my sharing on a practical approach to managing stress. Thank you very much.